After the opening week of the season, a lot of those rookie running backs let you down. Let's be patient here. But the veteran running backs prove they are still the king in fantasy. And there's one running back who was basically left for dead on draft day that might wind up being a league winner. We're heading into week 2, so let's do it again. Break down every matchup, all the running backs that might matter for fantasy, and tell you who to start and who to sit. Let's actually start with the must starts. These are some of those vet RBs you don't have to sweat. Josh Jacobs, Devon Achane, Chase Brown, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Bucky Irving, Kyron Williams, and Ashton Genty. Yeah, I know Genty didn't do a whole lot in his first game, but let's be patient here. But let's talk about, honestly, the first rookie running back that did kind of smash in fantasy. You know who I'm talking about. Commanders, Packers, Thursday night. That's our first game in week 2. Let's talk about Bill. All right, Corey Krosky, Merritt, and Austin Eckler are now basically the guys handling double duty here because Chris Rodriguez apparently is just not part of this committee. I don't know if he's going to even be active anytime soon. So, with that said, Bill got in the end zone. Bill looked pretty good. Are you starting Bill?
I'm starting Bill as a flex play. I'm a little worried here, though, because, man, the Packers, look, they just held David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs to 46 total rushing yards last week. But he did look good. He's going to get the carries. He could get in the end zone again. I'm only going to put him as a flex, though, because this is a very tough matchup here, again, in Green Bay. And then Austin Eckler, you can flex him, I guess, if you need to, but he's just a floor play and even like a low floor at that.
Well, here's the thing. We're going to say don't get carried away. Look, Krosky Merritt does have that juice. Eckler doesn't quite. Here's the thing is Krosky Merritt did not catch any passes. He doesn't have the ceiling yet because he's not a complete back. I don't know if he's going to be a 3-down back. Austin Eckler definitely is going to eat into his touches. But early in the week, and this might mean nothing, Austin Eckler popped up questionable with a shoulder thing. Again, maybe nothing. But you got to wonder if this is just one game now where he's seeing JCM involved. Is he going to slowly just start taking over this backfield? I'm not going all in. I'm still calling him just a flex, mainly because at Green Bay, this is not a great matchup for him. I think JCM is a flex. I think Austin Eckler is barely a flex. Well, I'll tell you what, though. JCM, I know that I'm definitely taking his line in underdog. Almost disrespectful, is it? 38.5 rushing yards. We don't know what to expect, but I feel like he can definitely outperform that. So look, if you have an underdog account, take that pick. If you don't, if you're brand new, you haven't tried it yet, sign up now. Use code ENDGAME when you check out because you get a free pick and you can pair up this pick, JCM, higher on 38.5 rushing yards on Thursday night with the free pick, whatever pick you like. You get a gimme. And also, if you are new and you play $5 towards anything, you get $50 added in bonus funds on top of the deposit match you already get for signing up for the first time on Underdog. Just make sure you use promo code ENDGAME to take advantage of all that. All right, no Friday game this week. All right, on to week 2. It's Sunday action. Let's talk Cowboys, though, facing the Giants. Well, the Giants, if you want to call it any sort of a running game, it's Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatterboo, the rookie here. Any expectations whatsoever?
Yeah, I expect them to be horrible. They were easily the worst running game last week. 46% of their runs failed to even gain a yard last week. And we're not talking like the Commanders, the 85 Bears defense here. I know the Cowboys defense isn't very good, but I don't even care. Like, I don't want these guys. Sure, maybe one falls in the end zone this week, but outside of that, what are we really going to get? I'm sitting both these guys.
I'm going to try to be patient. Just one game. I'm ready to be all the way out in this Giants offense, but I will say I was at least sort of encouraged by Tracy's usage. He definitely led the way as far as this running back room is concerned with 10 rush attempts and 5 targets. Why, for some reason, did Russell Wilson have 8 carries? He didn't even have that many at all last year with the Steelers. His high was 6 carries. I know he can still run a little bit, but this is bad coaching, which makes me worry about this whole offense. I think Tracy could still be flex worthy. Scatterboo, it's too soon. Now, I know a lot of fantasy managers are ready to just throw Javonte Williams in the lineup after scoring 2 touchdowns last week. Is that a good idea?
Think it's a good idea this week. I mean, the Giants gave up the second most rushing yards last week, gave up a rushing touchdown. I know part of that was Jaden Daniels, but we talked about Krosky Merritt. He looked pretty good last week. Javonte getting all the touches. He's got touchdown upside in this offense. I think he's solid, but I also think he's the only Cowboys running back I want.
I'm going to be cautiously optimistic here. Javonte is the lead back. Yes, he scored twice. Still only averaged 3.6 yards per carry. So without a touchdown, you might be left wanting a lot more. But it's the Giants. All right, he's going to get the touches. He should be solid this week. All right, now we get the Seahawks and the Steelers. Probably the running back room that fantasy managers are the most curious about and maybe the most annoyed with is Seattle. So we got Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. What is going on here? Is this all of a sudden like an even split? Is Charbonnet going to take over? And what's wrong with Kenneth Walker?
I wish I knew. I got to think it's got to have something to do with that foot injury. But, I mean, who knows? This could go, like you said, it could go any way, right? Maybe it's just all Walker suddenly. Maybe it's just all Charbonnet suddenly. Maybe it's just an annoying split. But whatever the case is, this absolutely is terrible for fantasy. Can't feel good here at all. I can only say these guys are flexes because, you know, they get enough touches. There is touchdown upside, but that's as high as I can put them.
It's really interesting diving into this, trying to figure out like what did go on. Is Walker still hurt? There's been no mention of that, at least not from Seattle. Not that they would tell us if he was, but you know, you see both sides here. There are some people who say, look, this is not the same guy, Kenneth Walker. In fact, there's a stat put out on Underdog Social that for the past 7 games, going back to last year, he hasn't averaged even 4 yards per carry, right? He's just a struggling runner. And then you have somebody I've seen like Ryan Linkletter, works with PFF, says, don't panic, don't worry about Kenneth Walker, right? It just so happened that their drives early in the game that were longer. Charbonnet was on the field. In the fourth quarter, Walker got more touches when it mattered and it was a close game. And this is just a blip on the radar. I'm not really sure which side are they going to fall on here. I'm just going to put both these guys as a flex option until I see a difference. And you know what? The Pittsburgh running game also surprised us because it was Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. Like, does Caleb Johnson just not exist? And where did Kenneth Gainwell come from?
Well, he came from the Eagles, but yeah, Caleb Johnson does not exist yet. You cannot start that guy. I'll say Jaylen Warren. I'm going to put him as a flex, but man, this Seahawks run defense looked great last year. They held Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers to just 3.3 yards per carry. Can't feel great about Jaylen Warren. I'm going to put him at a flex, but like a risky flex. He's at the lower end flex for me. And then Kenneth Gainwell, not enough touches here.
Now, I'm pretty sure Jaylen Warren's just going to live in the flex range pretty much most weeks, unless he happens to have a great matchup, unless there happen to be 6 teams on bye. But right now, he's definitely just a flex. There's still plenty more players to talk about. Quick reminder, you got questions, you don't have to wait for our live streams. We'd love to see you on there, but don't forget about Draft Lane. You can ask us questions anytime on the app. Just go to the little conversation tab, ask away, start sit, trade, waiver wire, and more. Our next matchup, got the Rams at the Titans. I think Kyrie Williams proved he's the only running back that matters still for the Rams. He's a must start. And in Tennessee, well, it's just Tony Pollard, right? Spears still on IR. But how much does Tony Pollard matter?
I think he matters this week. This is a much better matchup than what he had last week against the Broncos. He had 19 touches in this game. Last week, they allowed over 100 rushing yards to the lowly Texans. I think Tony Pollard can do something here. This isn't a smash spot. I don't feel great about Tony Pollard, but he's getting so much volume. I got to say he's at least solid.
I thought Pollard would be solid last week, and I think he did fine. But man, what I saw did not encourage me whatsoever about this Tennessee offense. I know Denver, right, especially on the road, that was a tough place to play. But look, Pollard had 60 yards last week. Nick Chubb against this Rams defense had 60 yards. What do I expect this week? Okay, probably about 60 yards. I mean, that feels right because, man, that offensive line looked like Swiss cheese. Cam Ward got sacked over and over again. He never had time to throw, and I just don't think Pollard is going to be able to do a whole lot. So I think he's a flex, but until I see a lot of improvement here from Tennessee overall, I think that's all he's going to be. All right, now we got the Bills at the Jets. Divisional matchup here might wind up being pretty high scoring when it normally isn't, especially it's anything like these two teams performed last week, over 70 combined points. All right, so James Cook, prove the doubters wrong. Is he going to do it again?
Why not? I mean, James Cook has been great for over a year now, right? Like, why are people still doubting James Cook? I don't understand this. It's like, good player, good situation. Nah, let's doubt this guy. That said, the Jets one thing the defense did do well last week for the Jets was they did a good job against the running game. Now, granted, that's the Steelers' running game here, and this is James Cook, but we also know this guy, he has touchdown upside every time he steps on the field. He's in a great offense. I got to put James Cook as a strong start.
Agreed. He's a strong start. I kept saying a lot of people were sleeping on him, or at least saying, he's overrated, he's overvalued. No, he could actually score about as many touchdowns as last year. And I said that they planned to get him more involved in the receiver. And guess what? They did. 5 catches, 58 yards just last week. Why can't he do it again? You got James Cook. Don't overthink it. And then one of the most pleasant surprises of week 1 was Breece Hall looking like the old Breece Hall. So is this any sort of a timeshare here, or do you think Breece just continues to dominate?
I think he just continues to dominate. Why not? He looked great last week. I mean, Braylon Allen, if it wasn't for that touchdown, did almost nothing. I mean, Breece dominated the touches here. And look, I know it's Derrick Henry, and he's the king, and he's the unicorn, but he just annihilated this defense. Why can't Breece have a good game this week? I'm going to say solid start, but very high-end solid, borderline strong start. As far as Braylon Allen goes, touchdown or bust here. I'm sitting him.
All right, well, I'll say this. At least Braylon Allen did get that touchdown. I think he's always going to have some touchdown upside because of the way he's used in short yardage, and I still think he's going to be a factor whether we want him to be or not. You shouldn't need him in week 2, right? We don't have teams on bye, and there are not a lot of injuries, at least at running back. But I'll still keep him on the flex radar, barely. And then Breece Hall, I'll put him as a strong start. He looked great, got those explosive runs, and overall this offense was just clicking. Justin Fields looked good. When the passing game works, the running game will work, and that's the only thing I kind of wanted to wait and see. Yeah, against the Bills, start Breece Hall. Patriots at the Dolphins now. You probably don't want anything to do with this Miami offense, and I don't blame you, but we're still putting Achane as a must start. He's the only guy we can feel good about in this offense. Okay, but what do you feel about the Pats' backfield? It was pretty much a split like we expected. Does that change in week 2?
I think it might. I was very encouraged by what I saw from TreVeyon Henderson. Now Ramondre definitely dominated the snaps, but he did not dominate the touches. And TreVeyon Henderson was just so much more productive than Ramondre, not only on the ground, but through the air. I said on the buy low video, the window is closing. We're going to see TreVeyon Henderson take over sooner than later. I think it might start this week. I don't think he completely takes over the backfield. But this is the Dolphins. They look like the worst team in the not even close. No team was even near as bad as the Dolphins last week on offense or defense. I'm going to put Henderson as a solid start this week. I'll say Ramondre is still worth a flex because he could score, and again, it is the Dolphins.
Well, I'm with you there. You know what? It's going to take some time, but the Henderson takeover might begin in week 2. When asked about what they could do better, Coach Mike Vrabel said, the bottom line is we have to run the ball better and more efficiently. I feel like that was kind of a shot at Ramondre Stevenson, who had 7 carries for 15 yards, whereas TreVeyon Henderson obviously looked more explosive. Look, they're still going to have somewhat of a timeshare here, but don't be surprised if Henderson starts to pull away here pretty soon. I'll say right now he's solid, but it's happening. Week 2, the Jaguars get to go to Cincy and face the Bengals. You got Chase Brown, you start Chase Brown. But now, all of a sudden, things done changed in Jacksonville. And, honestly, just before we started doing this, we found out Tank Bigsby, well, you think maybe he disappeared in Jacksonville? Yeah, he's actually gone now. He's an Eagle, of all things. Philadelphia has traded for Tank Bigsby. So, Travis Etienne, how high do you have to be on him now?
You got to be pretty high. He dominated the touches last week. He looked great running the football. He looked great catching the football. I was already going to say this guy's a strong start before we even got on. Now he's definitely a strong start. It's just him and Bayshal Tootin now. And I know the Bengals did do a good job against the Browns run game last week, but that's the Browns. I don't think Travis Etienne's going to have any problem here. I think Etienne definitely a strong start. And I'll say now, look, Tootin actually was kind of getting involved last week a little bit. It's the Bengals. Not my favorite flex, but if you're desperate, you could flex them.
It might take another week for me to just wrap my head around Travis Etienne being a league winner in 2025. I get it. His forte actually is as a receiver. I'm thinking game script here, running back at Cincinnati. Cincinnati did not put up a lot of points last week. They'll probably put up a lot of points against Jacksonville this week. So I just don't know how many carries Etienne gets. I don't want to go strong here. He's definitely solid though. And I mean, look, if you drafted Travis Etienne, well done. Layshaw Tootin, yeah, too soon. Don't forget LaQuint Allen, the other rookie running back, is also mixing in here. I don't think any other Jags running back now needs to even be a consideration except for Etienne. And 49ers at the Saints next week. Got CMC. Yep, still good. Keep checking the injury report just to be safe, but must start. Alvin Kamara, not a must start. How do you feel about his week 1 performance? It was kind of underwhelming.
It was underwhelming, and here's what really concerned me about his week 1 performance. Spencer Rattler, for some reason, attempted 46 passes in this game. It wasn't like they were getting, rolled by 40. Like, what, they just completely abandoned the run here? But Alvin Kamara, only two targets on those 46 passes. If Kamara's going to have value in this terrible offense, we need him catching a bunch of passes. I don't want to overreact to week 1. Maybe this week he goes out there and has like 7 or 8 catches and everything's fine. So I'm still going to call him solid. But he's going to be like one of my risky solids, meaning like I'm a little nervous here, but I think you're probably still starting him.
Yeah, I think we have to keep him at least solid because the floor should be there. He does have touchdown upside, but one thing I saw, and this goes back to coaching changes that, we have to see how it plays out, but still, coaches have tendencies. Kellen Moore doesn't run as many design plays for specific players. He prefers to spread it out. And we saw that Alvin Kamara did not have a lot of first read targets, right? They didn't intend to just dump the ball off. They want to see what Spencer Rattler can do. That might not change just yet. So I think Kamara's still solid, but if I had him, I'd be a little nervous. All right, Browns at Ravens. That's right. King Henry is still the king. Now in Cleveland's, we got nothing even close to that. All right, we got Dylan Sampson. We got Jerome Ford. And maybe Quishon Judkins. Do you think Judkins actually makes an appearance?
I do think there is a possibility we see Judkins this week, but it's too soon. I'm not starting him. I mean, he's going to be very limited here. Jerome Ford, not starting him either. I think the Browns have told us enough times now that they do not like Jerome Ford. I don't know why, but they don't like this guy. I'll say this about Sampson. Yes, the Browns' running game was awful last week, almost as bad as the Giants. But look how he was used in the passing game, and the Browns, they didn't sling it with Flacco. Everything was like short, quick, screens, there's real quick stuff. So that's good for Sampson. So I think because of his pass catching ability, he's worth a flex this week.
Yeah, it really makes you question why they just keep Jerome Ford around on the roster. They don't really have any confidence in him. You could definitely sit him. Honestly, at this point, you might as well just drop him. Judkins, stash, don't think about starting. And then as far as Sampson, I mentioned this in the waiver wire video. What was encouraging is he wasn't just the pass catcher because he was there on passing downs. It was weird because Jerome Ford was the one they rolled out on third downs mostly. But Sampson had 8 targets because he was targeted on first and second downs. They're going to go to him. I think that's going to continue. So that gives him a floor. Not a great ceiling. And yeah, they're probably going to get rolled by the Ravens. So I think just a flex. All right, next up, this should be an interesting one. The Bears at the Lions. Yeah, we got the backfields that basically are swapped. Remember, DeAndre Swift, the former Lion, and David Montgomery, the former Bear. Jahmyr Gibbs, you still starting him, no questions asked. What do you do with DeAndre Swift at Detroit?
This is not a great matchup, but the volume is there. He catches passes. I'm going to say solid, but again, he's going to be like one of those guys like lower end solid for me. I don't love it this week. But sometimes, like when the volume is there and the guy catches passes, you just got to kind of put him in your lineup, versus like a dice roll who's barely touching the ball.
Yeah, and look, regardless of everything that happened in week 1, it's still way too early to send the jury out, on a new coaching regime after one game, and we'll see exactly what happens here. Detroit's defense, it's tricky. I mean, they didn't really slow down Josh Jacobs much last week, but in Detroit, if they're putting up points, this could be tough sledding for Swift. I still like the volume, though. I'll put him as a solid also. And then there's Monty. Again, I feel like he just lives in the solid tier. Is that the case this week?
It is. I almost put him in the flex tier, but I think that was just an overreaction to that bad game against Green Bay. Because you look at it, he had 2 more carries than Jahmyr Gibbs. He still caught 4 passes in that game. Like, his role is exactly the same as it was last year. We're not seeing all Jahmyr Gibbs here like a lot of people thought. It's still a lot of Monty. This is a much softer matchup than the Packers. And like, I know he's played the Bears a couple times now, but still kind of a revenge game, right? I think Monty's solid.
Yeah, and actually Monty, in his brief career against the Bears, he averages 5.3 yards per carry. Now, again, what I just said, this is a team that has a new offense coordinator because, of course, theirs is in Chicago. Ben Johnson. Some people are panicked after 1 week. Lions offense looks lost without him. Let's slow our roll. That Packers defense is actually pretty good. Maybe underrated here, and now they got Micah Parsons. So I think Monty will be fine. Not a scary matchup. Still solid. All right, now the battle of the horses. Broncos at the Colts. JT, good to go. Now in Denver, it's the veteran J.K. Dobbins and the rookie R.J. Harvey. Predictably, Dobbins was the lead runner here. Do you feel like anything changes in week 2?
I think we probably see a little more Harvey because that's kind of how rookies go, or maybe not. Maybe they keep slow playing him here. So I think Dobbins is going to be the guy you want. But look, you know Dobbins is my guy. I drafted a ton of Dobbins, talking up Dobbins, but I got to keep it real here. He did not look very good last week against the Titans. And now I'm starting to wonder, like, is it the Colts defense? Like, are the Colts going to be some surprise defense this year, or are the Dolphins offense just really that bad? I guess we're going to find out. But Dobbins gets the touches. He could score. But man, I did not like what I saw from Dobbins last week as far as like efficiency and the way he looked running the football. So I'm just going to put him as a flex. Harvey, I'm still going to sit.
Yeah, well, just from that one game, I'll tell you, I have probably even more confidence in the RJ Harvey breakout this season. It's not going to happen yet. All right, so right now, I'll say they're both going to be pretty close in terms of touches. RJ Harvey showed that explosiveness and have 50-yard run. Dobbins did not, but volume is king. They're both just flexes. All right, now we got the Panthers at the Cardinals. I got to actually question in Arizona, is there something similar going on here? Are we seeing not the rookie, but the second-year running back Trey Benson, who did a lot of nothing last year, let's just be honest. And James Conner had a great season, but for some reason, we're seeing all of a sudden Benson eat into Conner's touches. Was that a fluke, or is this something?
This could be something. I mean, we heard this all off season that this could be a thing, but that being said, I mean, yeah, Conner didn't go off last week like we thought in a great matchup, but this is another great matchup against the Panthers. I think Conner, he's still like got most of the touches here. I mean, it's not like Trey Benson had 15 touches, but he had like 8 carries, I think. Didn't catch any passes. That was only Conner. So I still like Conner this week because of the matchup. I'm still going to say solid. I will say, though, I think I can put Benson in as like a risky desperation flex because, again, the matchup is so good. Maybe he gets a few more touches this week, but Conner's still the guy I want here.
I'm worried. I'm going to tell you this. I thought that things would be pretty similar to last year. I mean, this whole Arizona offense, pretty much all the same, but it looked like they made sure the game plan was to get Benson involved, and I think that's going to happen. We saw basically 2-1, Conner in favor of being on the field in snap share, but 16 touches for Conner, 9 for Benson. That's getting kind of close to a timeshare, at least 1A, 1B, and last year it was basically all Conner. And it's not just because Benson had that one long run, it's just he's been on the field more, and so I'm just going to put Conner down to a flex. I know it's a good matchup, but you got to get the carries, right, for it to matter. And then Benson, I think now has worked his way up to a flex option. No such dilemma for the Panthers. It's pretty much all Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, all Chuba Hubbard. Now, this is not as good of a matchup as he had last week, but it doesn't really matter. He gets the volume. He's a good player. The Panthers' offense will be better. Chuba Hubbard's solid.
Yeah, I really hope that Panthers' offense is better. We're talking to him all off season. I think it will be. He'll be fine. It's not a smash spot, so solid it is. Then your early contender for game of the week should be the Eagles at the Chiefs. Pretty good matchup. All right, so we know we're good with Saquon, but what is going on for the Chiefs in terms of running game?
Frustration, pain, like who knows, who cares? I mean, do we really even care, honestly? Are you really putting Isaiah Pacheco or Kareem Hunt in your lineup? It was a complete 50-50 split. It's probably going to remain a 50-50 split until something changes. No way.
Yeah, it was a bad week for anyone who started Isaiah Pacheco. I get that. Look, this is not a good spot. Eagles, of course, were second toughest versus the running back last year. I've still got to put Pacheco as a flex option. He still has touchdown upside. I've got to think Andy Reid is smart enough to say, look, Pacheco averaged 5 yards per carry. Kareem Hunt's averaging 3 yards per carry. Maybe we should give Pacheco the ball more, right? And especially with Worthy now injured, they're still missing Rashee Rice. Maybe they actually try to establish the run here against Philly. So flex, Kareem Hunt, no. But Sunday night, we're going to see the Falcons taking on the Vikings. Bijan is still Bijan. He's a must start. Now in Minnesota, got 2 running backs to consider this season. Got Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. What's the deal?
The deal is this is another frustrating one, right? Where we're going to see a timeshare more than likely. Very similar carries here. Jordan Mason, the goal line back. Aaron Jones, more of the pass catching back. I know it's a Falcons. I know it's a good matchup, but at the same time, like, what's the upside for these guys? I'm just going to say both a flex.
Well, last week, we go with the narrative that Aaron Jones crushes the Bears, which he usually does. This week, he gets the Falcons, which kind of just means nothing. I still think he's going to wind up being the guy who has more fantasy relevance because he's a receiver and Jordan Mason does not. And I'll say Jones should be solid, whereas Mason is a flex. I think he's just going to have to live on touchdowns this year. So this week we have 2 Monday night games. First one, Bucs at Texans. Bucky, gotta start him. Nick Chubb, probably not.
Yeah, I don't think you have to start Nick Chubb, but you could start Nick Chubb. It's not a terrible matchup here, although it's a terrible running back situation because it's the Texans. This offensive line is still awful, but he was the lead back, like clearing away the lead back. So if you're going to start with somebody from the Texans, it's going to be Nick Chubb. He gets enough touches where I at least have to consider him a flex start, although not one of my favorites.
No, definitely not one of our favorites. But look, credit where it's due. Preseason takes aside. Nick Chubb was solid, 4.6 yards per carry, and he was really the only running back that got significant carries. The rookie Woody Marks did nothing. I think it was like 3 carries for 3 yards. So yeah, Chubb's the only guy here that matters. It doesn't matter that much because, yeah, that Texans offense also really struggled. So I think he's a flex. Like to see him score, and if he doesn't, again, you're not going to get much out of him. And if those of you who are fans of rookie running backs, well, here you go. The final game of the week is one for you, the Chargers at the Raiders. And so despite the, let's just say, lackluster stat line, we're still saying if you got Ashton Genty, you stick with him, right? Do you really have a running back on your bench that's better than Genty? Well, maybe. Marion Hampton, also not great, but he was the only guy who touched the ball. Do you think Najee actually sees the field more in week 2?
He might see the field more, but I mean, how much are we talking here? Not enough to matter. I mean, the guy barely saw the field last week. I like Hampton this week. Look, a lot of people already labeling this guy a bust after one game. That was the Chiefs' run defense. This is the Raiders. I am not worried about this matchup at all. Not going to go crazy here. I'll say he's a solid start, though.
Yeah, agree. I thought it would be solid last week. And again, you got to look at the touches. They were there. Don't think Najee sees a lot, even more than the 1 carry they just kind of like tossed him as a bone last week. Hampton's the guy for the foreseeable future. This is a much better matchup. So yeah, he's still a solid RB2. 1 week down, a lot still to go. Keep setting those lineups the right way. We got start sit advice at every position, plus everything you need to know to keep winning. Check out this playlist.